एक बड़े महत्वपूर्ण पुस्तक द लास्ट हीरो ऑफ बनारस बाबू जगत सिंह पुस्तक का मंथन और विमर्श भी है। तो हम लोग काशी वैभव और उस काशी वैभव में एक बड़े महत्वपूर्ण वैभव हम लोग प्रत्येक दिन, मैं पहाड़िया का रहने वाला हूँ और उसी जगतगंज होकर ही कहीं चौका घाट पार करते हुए, पांडेपुर पार करते हुए हम लोग पहाड़िया पहुँचते हैं। और निश्चित तौर पर आज उसी महान विभूति के संबंध में भी हम लोग चर्चा पर चर्चा करेंगे। बाबू जगत सिंह पुस्तक के विमर्श में सबसे पहले प्रोफेसर अरुण बंदोपाध्याय सर को सुनेंगे। मैं आमंत्रित करता हूं कि सर।
A double privilege to be a speaker in the book discussion. It is a double privilege as I committed myself to Pradeep Singh of Jagatganj Raj Parivar to say something in the last few months, and also to the organizers of the international seminar of Kashi Vaibhav at the History Department, BHU. I tried to convince the head of the department and the convener that this would be a very important subject of discussion in this Kashi Vaibhav. So I am grateful to Professor Hansam, HOD, and Dr. Satpal Yadav, convener of the seminar, for finally including the book in the discussion in the program. The book now going to be discussed in this session is titled The Lost Hero of Banaras, Babu Jagat Singh, and written by, as I told, H. Qureshi and Shreya Pathak, and is published by Primus from New Delhi in 2024. To a large extent, the book is the product of Jagat Singh Royal Family Project. It has already made a commotion in the wider circles, several book discussions in lit festivals and elsewhere, and a Hindi translation of the book is already published, and its Bengali translation is being planned. The book is an important publication on several grounds. I think there are many speakers earlier on the book. I think my colleague and student also, Raj Shekhar Basu, also spoke on the book in the Lit Festival. I think there are three aspects. There are three aspects of the book which may be highlighted today in this discussion. Number one, the history of writing this book. What is the history of writing this book? And associated research and its reception. Second, the history that this book intends to focus regarding the long history of India's struggle for freedom. It's a long history from the British rule, highlighting arenas otherwise ignored, minimized or misinterpreted. So those aspects of history this book would like to highlight. Thirdly, which is generally not being spoken about, and which is little bit my addition to it, several implications of this work, which may be extended, critically appreciated, further researched on, and placed in a new historiographical direction. So from where should it go? So this is also there. The book is a history of Banaras Raj, both its senior and junior branch, in the twilight context of politics and power of the 18th century, with special reference to Babu Jagat Singh in historical perspective. This is the book. Here, the apparent stakeholders at different points of time were the Nawab of Awadh or its agents, the Banaras Rajas and their associates, and the East India Company. There are three stakeholders. One of its authors, H. Qureshi, who was actually a geologist, learned Arabic and Persian, and wrote several books on the period. Had previously worked on Nawab Wajir Ali Khan of Awadh. The book was published in 2002. And the Awadh rulers' relation with the English. This book was published in 2003, also dealing with the Rajas of Banaras. Indeed, he lamented that at that time he did not give much importance to Jagat Singh. When this project proposal came, he gave much more importance. The other author is Shreya Pathak, who had already a book to her credit, The Ruling Dynasty of Banaras State, which was published in 2014, to her credit. But the present book, I repeat, is the product of further research initiated by, as I mentioned, JSRFP, that Jagat Singh Royal Family Project, culminating in a draft which is kept as Resistance and Reflection of Poor Jagatganj Rajporivar of Banaras. That was the thing that they originally prepared, which was handed over to the two authors, who substantially improved it as the current monograph. This is my understanding. As Qureshi writes, I carried out an attentive and critical examination of all the material collected for the fulfillment of the objectives of the project. It helped me solve the mystification created by an important episode in the life of Jagat Singh, an episode which took place in 1796. He thought in that way. But I say, however, the book and the rich associated research finally covers more than that. It is not only in 1796, of course also in 1799, and the entire background and foreground, both. It is to be noted as aptly narrated in the book with the archival sources, very rich archival sources, very rich archival sources taken from National Archives, India Office Library, National Library, so many other sources, etc., etc. How, with the decline of the Mughal state in the 18th century, the Nawab of Awadh had to face different vicissitudes, rise and fall, different vicissitudes, and the frantic search of Nawab Wajir Ali began. How the family of Banaras Raj came into prominence during this period, 18th century, and subsequently division within the family and union of its different branches over time, and the rising power and position of the English East India Company with a special reference to the activities of Governor Generals such as Warren Hastings, Cornwallis and Wellesley. All these are included in this narrative. So it is a very interesting tripartite struggle. The important change of the late 18th century cannot be understood without an idea of the economic change that had occurred in Banaras in the course of the 18th century. It was not only a sacred city in India for ages. Of course, it is a sacred city in India for ages. But as Chris Bailey has pointed out, that by the 18th century, it was one of the largest urban centers in the whole of India. His book of the 18th century is very important, whole of India. It is populous, as I told in the previous session, that 2 lakhs people were residing here, next highest to whole of India. So there is a difference, because Bailey said that in terms of business, actually Delhi business was a little bit higher, but not in terms of population, probably at the end of the 18th century. It is populous, indeed larger than many European cities. Its jamindars were strong and ambitious. It is in this context that the family history of the Banaras Raj is to be seen. The family of Mansram is often identified as the founder of Banaras Raj. His father was Manoranjan Singh, a Trikarma Brahmin or Gautamo Bhumihar, tracing his ancestry from Sri Krishna, the Purohit of Raja Banar in Banaras in the 11th century. So that was the lineage. Manoranjan had 4 sons, and of them Mansram and Dayaram had been employed under Mir Rustam Ali, the Naib of Nawab Awadh. Soon the differences came, and Mansram got the contact of 3 Sarkars of Banaras, Jaunpur and Chunar in lieu of ancestral tribute of rupees 13 lakhs. Mansram got 3 jamindari for his son Balwant Singh, who became Raja in 1740. Balwant Singh later made his 18 inherited Parganas to 96 by conquest, before his death in 1770. Look just how the history goes. Dasaram, who had been the immediate ancestor of Jagatganj Raj Parivar, also strengthened himself and his possession, and despite occasional conflicts with Balwant Singh, he made rapprochement with him. Actually, sometimes joined hands with him. However, after the death of Balwant in 1770, a conflict of succession began. Jagat Singh, grandson of Dasaram, was a claimant in terms of direct blood and caste lines. However, finally Choit Singh, son of Balwant through his Rajput wife, was nominated, and Choit Singh continued his rule till 1781. So 11 years, when he was deposed after a revolt. Then Balwant's grandson, through his daughter's line, Mohib Narayan Singh, who died in 1795, was selected through the company's consent, who was followed by Udit Narayan Singh, who continued his rule till his death in 1835. So this is the chronological story. In the meanwhile, an important event occurred in the history of Banaras. In 1775, the English East India Company compelled the Nawab Asafuddullah of Awadh to hand over the Jamindari of Banaras to them. After which the Banaras Raja had to pay revenue to the company only. Of course, the terms were there, but they had to pay, not the Nawab. As a result of the new treaty of 21st May 1775, Banaras had become a part of English territory. An English resident was placed in the Raja's court. After the deposition, that means of Choit Singh in 1781, Jagat Singh again made his claim for the Banaras Raj, but this time also it was postponed and rejected. Such prayers went on in the early 1790s, but with no effect. It was at this juncture, with the active collaboration of Nawab Wajid Ali, who was a dissident at that time, that Jagat Singh managed to make an outbreak of resistance on 14th January 1799, when the resident Cherry and his aides, resident of Banaras, Cherry and his aides were killed, and the magistrate Samuel Devils and his family were also attacked, but somehow he escaped. Jagat Singh was first punished with a death sentence. Then it was modified by a life imprisonment, but before it was implemented, he jumped in the Ganges for Jalo Samadhi, as the book suggests, on 20th October 1799. This is a rough storyline. The book thus made an important claim that an anti-British armed struggle in Banaras had already been made in 1799 under the leadership of Jagat Singh, and that it was made only when the legal claim of Banaras was repeatedly rejected. Banaras repeatedly rejected. It is to be treated as a significant part of early British resistance. Early resistance against the British. We now turn. This is how the book is written. We now turn to history that this book intends to focus on the long history of India's struggle for freedom from British rule, highlighting chapters, issues, persons either blatantly ignored or minimized or misinterpreted. It is now generally accepted that India's struggle for freedom did not begin in 1885, when the Indian National Congress was established. There are different kinds of awareness of India's subjection and protest against it in between 1858 and 1885. Moreover, the very mutiny of 1857 is now projected as a revolt. The Sipahi mutiny is called the revolt of 1857, as a revolt thanks to the works from Savarkar down to Eric Stokes. They all actually pointed out this thing, amongst others. There are also various peasant and tribal revolts prior to 1857, which is also considered part of the primitive resistance. Over and above all of them, it is now claimed that such resistance may also be found in the later 18th century, be it the Sannyasi rebellion in Bengal or the revolt of the polygars in South India. It is strange to find almost a coincidence of Jagat Seth's resistance in 1799 with the polygar revolt of 1798-1800, almost the same time, where the leading role was played by Kattabamma, in the film it is Shivaji Ganesan, in the film on that thing. As per the tradition of his times, Jagat Singh was given traditional education, but also acquired current learnings of the time. It made him a great lover of Persian, and he established a rich library of literature. He was also an Amil of repute of his ancestral Jamindari of Shivpur. We crossed Shivpur from airport to BHU. That's Shivpur, probably. Shivpur and Katihar, with an annual revenue of rupees 2.12 lakh. He established a small town and market and was extremely popular during his time. So much so that Raja Mohib Narayan was jealous of him. He was more popular. There is no doubt of Jagat Singh's natural capacity of acting as a leader of the Jamindars, so much so that he was charged by a senior judge as the prime mover of the conspiracy of 1796 that was talked by Qureshi. Qureshi and also Shreya Pathak, Qureshi et al. Rejected the charge as his intentions were not violent at that time. It was a case of plunder of public treasury, but he was acquitted. However, Jagat Singh was quite aware of the widespread discontent against the British. The company's dealings led to this discontentment as their exploitative tendencies for sucking as much surplus of revenue as possible from their allies as possible indirectly led to the economic downfall. Even the development during Choit Singh's rule as the senior Raja Banaras proved this. He was continuously asked for money, violating all the norms of the Treaty of 1775. All the norms on behalf of the company. Now, why company was asking so much money? My teacher, Professor Amolesh Tripathi, once upon a time wrote a book called Trade and Finance of the Bengal Presidency. And he said that in spite of the grant of Diwani, always the company was short of money because company was expanding its empire elsewhere and all the money was coming from the Bengal thing, and Bengal, within the Bengal thing, Banaras was part of it. So, Amolesh Tripathi has argued this was a compulsion because of the economic exigencies of the territorial expansion of the company elsewhere in India. N.K. Sinha, who was my teacher's teacher, and also I met him when I was very young, however, has taken a nationalist line by linking it to the to the anarchic character of the company's early rule for its maximization drive. Indeed, NKCNR student Suprakash Sannal wrote a dissertation actually on the Choit Singh type of thing, actually what kind of certain kind of demands were coming from that, and Choit Singh also compromised but did not do it. At a time he had to do something else and he was deposed. Maximization of revenue, violating all norms. It was not unlikely that Jagat Singh was unaware of it. This is my hunch. Because Jagat Singh was a literate person and Pandit also, and Persian and all these things he knew. Jagat Singh initially took a peaceful line of prayers and petitions, like early nationalists. Early nationalists also did the same thing. Both in 1781, after the deposition of Choit Singh, and in 1795, after the death of Mahib Narayan Singh, Jagat Singh appealed to the company to consider his claim of succession to the Banaras Raj on the ground that succession through female line was not the accepted norm according to the Hindu Shastras, and that the company's action in 1770 and 1781 was self-contradictory. Company once upon a time accepted, then not accepted also. Because in the case of Choit Singh, it accepted that female line would not work, but in the case of after Choit Singh, it did. But no action was taken on this petition. Only Jagat Singh was given a pension of rupees 1,000 per month. It was only in 1798-99 that Jagat Singh joined hands with Wazir Ali, another deposed Nawab of Awadh. In his state, Sadat Ali Khan came there. And in the secret meeting with Sukram Das, who was a Vaishnava Brahmin and agent of Wazir Ali. See, interestingly, how 18th century was worked. Chauve was trying to argue that Banaras has a long history, ancient part and modern part, but we should not ignore the medieval part. So, but long history, actually everything was connected, you see. Vaishnava Brahmin and agent of Wazir Ali, Jagat Singh assured the help of 4,800 foot soldiers and 53 horses immediately. That was his first list. And then another 81,000 men later, second list. So two lists actually he provided in the secret meeting. He was at that time adamant to do something great of a wider magnitude and dimensions to root out the English from every place from Banaras to Calcutta. That was actually his hidden agenda. Jagat's 60 Jamindar friends, yes, 60 Jamindar friends were willing to join his plan and offer oaths of allegiance. This is very important. How he conducted the thing. Now, despite the sudden outbreak and the complete unpreparedness of the English, it was suppressed by the English under the leadership of Erskine. But that is not the innate importance of the story. Had this army not been stationed near that Sekor and the vicinity of Banaras with considerable artillery pieces and heavy ammunition, there was every likelihood that it would have been very difficult for the English to contain the spread of resistance to a more dreaded level. So it could be another kind of 1857 at that time. Though 1857 also was also subdued, that is not the question. Now, what is the significance of discussing the book today? This is the part of actually what history it tries to focus. What kind of history the book. Now, the third thing that I am going to place before you for consideration is something which I am thinking and which I am adding on. What is the significance of discussing the book today in historiographical context? This is the last part of my discussion. The book is no doubt establishing the cardinal importance of Banaras Raj family and its component part, Jagatganj Raj Parivar, vis-a-vis the English control of it, and Jagat Singh's violent resistance of it at the end of the 18th century. The internal family dispute was also included in it. In this sense, it is part of a long story of freedom movement. Here the undisputed hero was Babu Jagat Singh. However, what are the other implications of the book which may be extended, which may be critically appreciated, which may be further researched on, and by this way may be placed in the new historiographical direction? I am not giving an exhaustive list, but I wish to focus on a limited issues here. First, Banaras and the sentiment of the people should be one focal point of extension of argument. We have often heard of the recalcitrant Jamindars and their henchmen, and together their continuous resistance against the external authority throughout the 18th century. It is a very different local history of Banaras. And if we focus on the local history of Banaras, we can focus on the 18th century, even we can go before, and probably even in the foreground further, that is to say after 18th century, by an extension of argument. Secondly, though it is the history of a Raj and its branch in a distinct locality, that means Banaras history, local history, and their confrontation with the external authority of the East India Company in the second half of the 18th century, familial conflict between the two lines of the family came to the fore. Hence, the conflict between the senior Raj and Jagatganj Raj Parivar came to the part of our discussion. But if we inquire closely, we find that the participation of the company as a catalyst by exerting its opinion on the choice of succession. Why? How company could be a partner of choice of succession? Sometimes misinterpreting law also. In 1770, 1781, 1795, mostly on illegal, fake or profitable grounds. These are illegal grounds, fake grounds, profitable grounds. This makes the difference of the two branches of the Raj a thin one, as both were subject to the open exploitation of the early colonization of the company. So both Choit Singh and Jagat Singh differently were actually the victim of exploitation of the company in the early period of its rule. So this is the connection also. In this sense, there is no difference of experience between Choit Singh and Jagat Singh in the long run. Thirdly, it is well known now to us that Jagat Singh, because of his control and capacity, could assemble a large number of Jamindars and their henchmen in his resistance against the British. But in one account of the second list that he provided, it is stated that he was able to assemble 9,300 men. 9,300 men belonging to various localities and his relatives. They are not Jamindars all. They are actually other kind of persons to take part in this resistance movement. Who are they? More research on them is required. These people, 9,300 people. Fourthly, like the early nationalists, Jagat Singh first took recourse to prayers, and when they were not heard, developed resistance against the British. But in spite of these mixed methods, his name and influence created ripples of fear among the authorities of the company's administration. So much so that even after the suppression of the revolt, Jagat Singh was given the punishment of a death sentence, and later on it was changed because it was said that he was a Brahmin. But many Brahmins were also given death sentences. So that is not the main issue. It was given to life imprisonment in distant St. Helena. Not here, but distant St. Helena. Why? Because even after the suppression of the revolt of Jagat Singh was fear to the English authorities. Jagat Singh was a fear, standing fear. So he was sent St. Helena, and he was not punished for that because it was thought probably that it would create further discontent. This suggests the early colonial rulers considered the early resistance very seriously. So the later resistance which took place, for example, during the mutiny or the revolt, and also during our national movement. That was important. Yes, I'm now finished. Okay. Fifthly, it is apparent that Jagat Singh was the most important symbol of this early resistance against the company's rule in Banaras and elsewhere. But his descendants did not do so during the time of the Great Revolt of 1857. His grandson Fateh Narayan Singh rendered his service to help rescue Lieutenant Tucker and other English gentlemen during the calamity of 1857. He was also involved in various other philanthropic and educational activities during the British Raj. Though it seemed apparently strange, in a deeper sense it was not. It was not a strange thing. It is part of the aristocratic reaction. Aristocratic reaction both before and after the mutiny, as argued by historian Metcalfe. It is also not to be forgotten that the Bengalis, who were mostly silent during the revolt of 1857, became arch nationalists and revolutionaries later. So how do you actually compromise these two trends? Here, the case was apparently just the opposite, because Bengalis was not the revolting thing, but they became later on. It suggests that the long story of our national movement had different phases with distinct ideas, various visions and participation at various times. This brings us to the final part of the implications of the book, so aptly called Lost History. We think that the early colonialism of the company, mostly extending in the last 4 decades of the 18th century, was a very, very distinct phase, both for its naked subjection and extortion. Because British Raj, victorious times, so many things were talked about, but the company was not. Tribes plunder were going on, so that was naked completely. Whatever is to be plundered is to be plundered. It is not the British Raj of later times. So that is that phase, both for its naked subjection and extortion. Naturally, the early resistance to the company's rule was also very difficult in terms of its plan, rapidity and execution. It required different kinds of courage, capacity and commitment. Though mostly unrecognized by later historiography, it has subtle meanings and therefore a legacy which has to be unearthed and imagined in the long history of freedom movement by various ways. Hence lies the real recovery of what is lost. The real recovery of what is lost with Jagat Singh, the hero of Banaras, and what is gained later in Indian history. Thank you.